Yeah, with snow.
Hi, welcome to The Buzz. This is a direct view to what is happening at the World Water Congress and Exhibition 2022 in Copenhagen. And as you know, this is usually a segment where we have three or four young water professionals talking a little bit about what they are experiencing throughout the Congress. But today I have to say I have two special guests because I just couldn't help it. And they said yes. So I have Glen Daigger joining us, and he has many exciting news to tell us, and Michael Storey, who has a story behind all of this, so I want you guys to know. So join me in this 45-minute conversation about the Congress and the world of water. Hi, everyone.
Hi.
So great to see you, and thank you for joining the podcast. What a Congress. We were needing this, right? It has been something that the sector was needing. I will just start with Nerea, if that's okay, because she's the chair of Young Water Professionals Denmark, and she was the one that somehow had to navigate the production of Young Water Professionals activities for the Congress. What happened?
Yeah, it's happened a lot. I hope you've seen that. Yes, it's been a long way coming. There've been many people who've worked on this for a long time. I took over Nerea Lund, who was the chair before me, and she was very, very much involved in the Congress activities. Yeah, so I'm sorry she's sad that she couldn't stay until the end and say it happened. But I took over in May, and I took over. I realized there's a million things that had to happen.
I remember some conversation that you're like, Inês, I don't know how to do this. There's no way.
Yeah.
How we'll pull this off.
Yeah.
But you figured it out, right?
We figured it out. We had such a fantastic team. We've been, for the last month, we've been seven females working together weekly, organizing everything, making sure there were a lot of activities planned for young water professionals. It's been so great. I also had to defend my PhD week before the Congress.
So 1 day before the Congress.
So
And can you tell? Sorry, but I need to ask. Can you tell a little bit what you felt during that day? Because you shared with me. Yeah. Because you shared with me this, this feeling of what. I mean, how was it? I don't want to say it for you, so please.
It is a strange experience. You work on, and maybe it's what people have felt also during this Congress. You work on something for so long, it becomes part of you, kind of. And like with a PhD, you think about it all the time. You dream about it sometimes, and then all of a sudden it's the one day and it's gone. So it's a mix of relief, sadness because it's over. You want to sleep. It's mixed emotions, but it's also, it feels like, I don't know, that it's hard to put into one day 3 or 4 years of work.
Work and growth?
Yeah.
Because that's what frustrated me, right? I came to present and I was completely aware. I'm going to talk to you for 45 minutes about these technicalities, and you have no idea. I have no idea what happened. I changed. But I cannot talk about that for 45 minutes with you, and I have to share my experience. It was really strange on that. I think that when you receive the diploma, then you maybe have there a sense of accomplishment after some time.
Because the Congress was so close, I haven't felt yet the adrenaline crush, so maybe that will come tomorrow. So I don't think I still have digested everything. Yeah. So when I became chair and I know the PhD defense was coming and the PhD and also the Congress, it was like excitement, but also dread. But we've had such an amazing team, and I don't know if you talk about all the activities we've had. We've had
many.
Young Water Professionals dinner on Monday, which was very, very successful. You showed the audio in your keynote. It was amazing to hear all those young people enjoy themselves and talk and make connections. We've had workshops with other chapters around the world, Malaysia, South Africa. That's been great to get to work with those young water professionals and meet them here, work together. What else? We've had a lot of activities in the Nordic Pavilion, all kinds of things.
Crazy. It was
of course, the podcast.
Yeah, this was also an activity.
Yeah, yes, this is also
But
water professionals activity.
Yeah,
It's great.
it was, and it was a good collaboration. But we'll after this we'll have a talk that is only with these 7 women, and I think I'll put Vincent there and Martin. If you want to say a few words, that will also be fine. But we'll talk about like the experience of organizing all of this, you know, and how do we feel and retrieve energy, and what we can now, which work we can continue, what worked, what didn't work, also for Canada after to go after. But then I will go, because Nerea is our latest chair, so then I'll move to Michael's story, if that's okay. What is your connection with young water professionals? Because I heard it's massive.
Goes back along many years.
Yeah, how was it?
So, in fact, I'll take you back 20 years. It was at a time when young professionals were seen but not heard. You would go to a conference and you just didn't have a voice, and that was just how it was. But at the same time, there were conversations that weren't taking place, things that we take for granted now when we talk about an Indigenous voice and diversity and inclusion. And climate change wasn't even a term that was coined. And, well, it was perhaps coined, but it was never discussed. And we talk about resilience and who was going to bring that conversation. So I started obviously with some really good help and some great mentors with Glen, Daigger, and I can name Mark Pascoe and Tom Mollenkoff and Daryl Day and Richard Stewart, and there's a whole Jörg Keller, all great mentors, and gave me a platform and a voice, which became the Young Water Professionals Program. Dave Garman put me on the board.
So let me understand. When was Young Water Professionals when did it came up?
2004 it was coined. So back in 2002, I attended a conference in Cranfield alongside 12 other researchers, which was the Young Researchers Conference. So that was the first thing that looked like a young professionals conference. Yeah.
Okay, great.
So we got together at Cranfield University in the United Kingdom, Richard Stewart and others, and helped pull it together. It morphed into what became the Young Water Professionals Program.
Were you there, Glen?
No.
No, not at that one. Okay.
And it then, as I said, over time evolved, and we had a platform which then became the Young Water Professionals Program. And I was, in fact, gifted. I was very fortunate to become the first chair of that program. And in that capacity,
the steering committee. It's like the steering
committee. It is what is the steering committee. I chaired the Young Water Professionals Program. And in that capacity, I had a seat on the board. And at that point in time, there wasn't a young person's voice in IWA. So what we take for granted. So I think listening to all these things, and I sit at this conference and listen to the conversations taking place, but the platforms, Inês and yourself, and the keynotes, you guys have, as I said, taken it to another level. And 20 years down the track, it's just extraordinary to see what it's become.
You paved the, and I kind of feel it goes full cycle. So Glen, because now we had the latest chair, and then we have here the beginning of Young Water Professionals, and I feel like with you we have kind of the continuity, the eternal continuity.
I like that.
Isn't it? So Glen, tell us what happened on your mind to say, I need to do this, so I need to create this endowment. What happened? You don't need a mic, you already have one. So
to pick up, I was at the time frame, so David Garman was the president, and I was the senior vice president. So I was actually just, I was in the process of I'd been an IWA member since 1973. So the one of the founding organizations, but so I thought I knew IWA, but I was new on the board, and I was actually trying to figure out the organization. So, and then there was Michael. So and seeing the launch of the YWP program, so I was senior vice president from 2006 to 2010, and then was fortunate to be elected as president. So I served 2 terms, 2010 to 2014. So
it ended in Lisbon.
Yep.
Right, that was my first conference.
Yep.
Wow.
Yep. So with that though, I mean the program was really not only kicking off but gaining momentum and so forth, but the absolute commitment to support. So not only myself but Patty, when she was traveling with me,
all the time.
we as much as possible we were with young water professionals. So I both of us observed the steering committee, how people then have moved into their careers and so forth, and what the program was creating, and also knew the constraints within the association. So from the board, the resources that are so leveraged with this association, so it's a small staff, and it does an awful lot with the resources that it has. So yeah, Patty and I were I was with C.H. Hill for 35 years, left because that organization was changing, quite frankly. So in that transition to Michigan, we were starting to do our financial planning, and life has been good for us. So we had accumulated some funds, and so we started talking with Kala and Tom Mollenkoff about doing something, and endowing something as we're starting here. And it was the Emerging Water Leaders Program. That was their phrase. That was the first thing out of their mouths. But for Patty and I, it was it, because we've seen how it works. We've seen the contribution to the individuals and to the association and to the world of water, and just right now, just everything is there. It just needs more money. Yeah. So we were able to to play that part.
Yes.
Glen, if you don't mind, and Patty, their eyes would light up when they talk about the young professionals. We felt like we're one of your own. They talked about the YWPs as your extended family, and the gift that you guys gave is extraordinary, Glen.
So we go to these meetings, and so forth. So of course, young water professional is 35 or less. So we'd sit there, and one of my little jokes that I'd play is I'd start asking, when, where are you from and when were you born? I knew the answer, but I'd point out that Patty and I had been married to each other for more than 35 years. And so most people don't actually believe that the world existed before they were born, at least for a period of time. So it was great fun, the eyes would... Nobody was alive before I was born. That's kind of the...
Glen said he's got 6 jokes and he's going to tell them all.
That was one. Wonder. I have to
go. The other one was, can I share? So we had the young professionals, and then all of a sudden they became the distinguished fellows, and he always used to say, we have to transfer our knowledge before we become the extinguished water professionals.
Distinguished.
Extinguished.
Yes.
That's the second joke. That one is lovely.
If I can pick up on that, in that time frame, so is David Garman, Paul Ryder, who was executive director for quite a long time. He's retired now, and myself and a few others. We really said this about the people of this organization. We need 3 things. So young water professionals. So this is different stages of a person's career. The fellows. So, and then the distinguished fellows were added, but the phrase we used was the wall of fame. So the founders, and Tom Mollenkoff early in the summer asked Paul to do the history of
that's
IWA.
why, because I saw that at the president's dinner.
Yep.
And I didn't know what was the reason for it. Now I get it. So they want to go back to the Wall of Fame.
Yep. So so there's a list of Paul he's kind of vetted this with a few folks, but this will become a project of the fellows is to take this
How
list
lovely.
of 50 folks that Paul is, and to say, are we missing anybody? Is there, get the founders. So those three pieces, and it's Paul early in the summer reached out to me to tell, to say he was doing this and, looking for help. I was just so happy, it finished those three things.
Wow.
Pasco's another person I'd like to add in there.
Yep.
Left us, but he was one of those pioneers and one of the great champions of YWPs and a great mentor as well.
Well, it's clearly one of the big events today of the exhibition area was the signing of the endowment, and this was a moment where young world professionals were there. I saw some tears also, and I saw that we and I told you this, Glen, it's not because you signed the paper with this amount of money. It is because we know where it comes from within your heart, because you've been there throughout the entire process, right? We have seen you at our workshops. We have seen you listening, asking questions. And I think that's what validates the endowment. So thank you so much for that. So that was, I believe,
We reference your work.
you will need the...
Sorry, I just wanted to say, in addition to that, we reference your work, in our thesis.
There's also that.
Not just kind, he's really smart as well.
Really fun. But what else, Katharina, from the exhibition area? What do you feel? This is the last day. How is it going? What are you taking out of it?
Yeah, I mean, it's calmer today, we must say. Like there are less people, but what I like recognize today is that many more people were coming that were just had a visitor pass. So I think this is really great that they even offer this. People can come in for free. There are these business forums all over the halls. Like you can go, of course, read the posters, but you can go read or listen to the business forums from many different companies. So it's possible to, even if you just like live around or just started university or whatever, like there were people that of course are not that engaged in the water sector yet, but might be someday, or like just are interested a little bit in the water sector, and they can just come by, have the free pass and walk around, and the interesting talks happen anyway, so even if it's just this one day.
I'm curious because these students from the water camp, they have the t-shirts of color. I was wondering, did you see them around in the exhibition area, or do you think?
Yeah, a lot.
You did? Okay.
And it's really interesting because some of them just have studied one semester or like 3 semesters, so really early in their career. And it's so interesting to talk to them and like see how that they have so interesting questions, which are basically the same questions that we ask, right? I mean, it's still, and I guess that's something that probably you can answer, but like some questions will follow us along the career path all the way. Probably not everything can be resolved until we retire. And so that's really cool that they, like so many students applied. There was an application process to the World Water Camp.
Yes.
And so like they really wanted to be here, and it's again people from all over the world.
It is.
And yeah, they come here, and it's really interesting.
It was, so the Young World Professional Steering Committee, so one of the persons was the one revising the list of applicants to make sure that we included the same system that we have for guidelines for diversity within the water camp as well. So, and I think they will continue. Actually, I think now they're doing the passover to Canada, so that also in Canada it happens. And the idea is that we grab all the students that have, experiences, by studying in the water sector, and we help them navigate a conference. How to go through a World Water Congress, because it's really easy to get lost, right? So the idea is all of that. So Linda, you're actually here today because Hayat, or actually Farouk couldn't be here because the chair of Canada was the one being here today with the chair of Denmark to do this passage to Canada. But you're here representing Canada today. You're also in the board, if I'm not mistaken. I'm mistaken.
So I'm part of the technical program.
The technical program,
with
yes.
you.
Yes, the program committee, yes.
So Inês, you understand that we started planning for the technical programming since 2019.
Yes.
That's when we first met in Copenhagen.
Yes.
And it's been a lot of really great friendships along the way.
Yes.
Outside of this podcast, I've made so many friends. Katharina, you're my first friend here. So it was just so great bringing everybody together. And also, I'm a water wastewater engineer in consulting myself, so I'm a huge water nerd. Did my wastewater research referencing Glen's work, like I said earlier. So yeah, like being here is just being such an exciting experience, and also taking a lot of lessons learned from this Congress. It's been great. Not many lessons learned.
No, but
the
what
ones
do
that
you
we do
think,
have.
when you think about the Congress and the young water professionals, would you like to bring? Do you have any already ideas or other things that you can add? Because this is all an add-on. I mean, we don't care to be criticized. It's okay. We'll do it better next time. So
Podcast, for example.
the podcast, yeah, it can be.
Yeah, so this podcast is such a great initiative. Yeah, like we're gonna continue this tradition in Toronto in 2024. And I also definitely think that from the technical programming perspective, I think one challenge that I experienced is because there was so much information, I wanted to go to every single technical session and also check out the business forums and things like that. So they were just going in parallel. So we got to find a better way to somehow.
I'm honestly thinking, because in companies now we have this policy that there's one day that you have no meetings. You cannot schedule meetings with people. There's one free day. And I'm actually thinking that we should have like an afternoon or a morning. That there is nothing. You just go and talk, just walking around the exhibition area. Maybe the business forums can run the activities over there. Maybe we do the posters, some recognition there. You know, some sessions just dedicated to posters where there's no competition, to technical sessions. And there, I think there's a space to work, because I felt that I couldn't breathe. I was just jumping from place to place.
I think the secret too is never stand still and just continue to evolve and innovate. I think back to the fact that we're sitting in a podcast. I dare show my age, but in 2004 we started a conversation at IWA. There was this thing called Facebook, and and here we are. That we need
describe it to me.
Well, that was the first thing I had to do was. But we had to connect and we had to engage. But we had to talk in a language, but use channels that the next generation use, because, you know, there was a thing that we just keep communicating the way through newsletters, and that's not how you connect and engage. So that's my only, is to continue to evolve. And things that we were doing 10, 20 years ago, what got us here, there's an old saying, what got us here isn't going to get us to where we want to go.
What is it the same? Because we talk a lot about what changed and what is changing across generations. But if you had to talk about things that you like that remain the same, that actually it's good, because we talk a lot about like the gray elephants in the room, but what about the things that you see that it's consistent and that you appreciate?
So I think you need to understand the purpose of this conference, which is different than, I mean, you know, IWA does a conference a week, right?
Yeah.
So most of them specialist conferences and so forth. So I absolutely believe that specialist conferences should only have a single track, because, you know, this is a topic that you're intensely interested in and you want to see everything. The challenge is then, you know, if you do one track, then it's fewer. So the posters become more important. But this conference is about IWA as the big tent, accommodating all of the parts of this organization, which is, you know, the strength of this organization is that it's so inclusive.
Yes.
That makes it complicated. We were talking about
that, yes.
So when you come to a conference like this, you have to be an optimist. The optimist says, I'm doing something productive every instant. Don't be a pessimist to think about what I'm not doing, because there's no way. There's no way. So the way to look at it is how good a job does it do of being the big tent that brings people together, but then also creates conversations across those, you know, those individual groups of people. So that's the purpose of the plenary. You know,
the keynote being turned into a plenary, I think it was a really, really good decision, actually. Yes.
Yep.
I've also seen, I have to say, that there were a lot of technical sessions where most of the presentations were collaboration based. And I think there was an effort because we talked about the SDGs a lot, and we referred that it was important to reveal some connection with SDGs. And I think a lot of people leveraged on SDG 17 on this one, and I'm so happy about that. It's one of the SDGs that I'm very, very passionate about. So most of them were either academia with utilities, and there was also private to private, which I was particularly happy about. And they were not afraid of sharing knowledge. On results of technology resolving emerging issues. So it's not all technology that we're discussing that now we found out a little bit more about this. It was about right now my understanding of this, of how to solve this, is this one. What is your understanding of it? And that was really good, really magical to happen.
Yeah.
Yes. Nerea, what was your highlight?
Oh, difficult. What was my highlight? It's difficult. I think I'm gonna cheat because I'm gonna follow up on Glen. I think the best thing about this is that you get to do it all. You get to see the people, the specialists, that you get to see the people that you meet at specialist conference. I've attended very good sessions, very good technical sessions, but you also get to meet a lot of other people from other that are specialized in other topics, but also people in the exhibition area, which you typically do not meet in a specialist conference. I love that there was an operations challenge, like that's very close to me. I really love that they included this year. Love it. I've asked Peter this morning, and they will continue for Canada, so I'm very happy about that.
But I think we need to do some improvements there.
We need to do some improvements. I already told, I have some ideas.
Okay, no, but it was, to be honest, it was only men.
It was only men.
Yes.
Well, I was there. No,
The teams were only male.
no, there was. Okay.
Yeah.
But
But it's great that we're including. That I really like.
I was in the Operations Challenge Chicago 2016 with a Danish team. There was an Argentinian team that there was also had a girl my age.
That's lovely.
I met girls. I met quite a lot of
In
girls
this
in the Operations Challenge.
In this one,
But
because
it's
maybe we can ask to be mixed
But
teams.
I think it's a reflection of the reality. Operators
Yes.
right now are mostly men, so
Do it in tennis, right? Mixed doubles.
Yes, just to do mixed. Just ask. It has to be a mixed team. And they will bring one, and she will figure it out. She says yes to that, she'll figure it out.
okay.
Oh, this is the okay that the chair sometimes gives me. Yes.
It's complicated. This is Nerea Carreño speaking. It's not chair of Young Water Professional Denmark or VCS Denmark. This is just me. I feel like we should not kid ourselves that operators are half women, half female, half male, because that's not the reality. The reality is what it is. So we should be, of course, encourage any women to participate as much as men, but we should not be reflecting a reality that's not the real reality. So I think if we would make a quota for female participation, we might be sending a message that's not the reality.
I understand your point, but maybe having just mixed teams are prioritized or something. We didn't have any this challenge. I didn't see one, but yeah. But that's good. I'm happy for that. Linda.
Sorry,
yes.
Inês, I just want to say that's a great point. Maybe we can introduce like bonus point system for teams that have women.
Yeah, could be.
Yeah.
Well, we can come up with several ideas, but so operational challenge and the fact that it has all of this world of things happening.
Yes.
Yes, perfect.
Yeah,
Linda.
we got sidetracked. Now I just remember like what question you asked.
No, but that's okay. It was me. It was not
Why
you.
are we talking quotas?
It was me. It was me, not you.
That's a good
I
point.
deviate.
That's a good point.
Linda, what was your highlight?
I mean, I also really liked, I like the Operations Challenge. Canada had a team and we placed second, so shout out.
Ooh, good luck.
Yeah.
That's
Who
really
won?
good.
Who won?
I actually don't know. I didn't, sorry.
We'll find out.
We'll find out. But my highlight, there were just so many highlights. I would say definitely watching the technical programming workshops come alive, because we've been planning it for 4 years. There's been ongoing communication with the rest of our committee members. We received an overwhelming amount of abstracts and poster pitches, if you remember all of the work that we put into it. And it's just such great to see it come alive. When I actually chaired a session on microplastics as emerging contaminant, especially we talk about the impact due to COVID and the setback because of COVID. So there was a lot of plastic introduced, and now we're dealing with the consequence of that as well. So my highlight is definitely the technical programming. It wasn't perfect, but we'll keep improving for the Toronto Congress.
Yes, perfect. No, yeah, there's always ways to improve. I just felt also that everyone was just happy to see each other. Because to be honest, we've submitted these papers for a year. I kind of read what you're doing, but maybe it gave opportunity for some more specific questions. So what are you doing now? Do you have any follow-up on that? It gives opportunity on that. Yes. What about you, Katharina? Oops. It's okay. It's okay. What about you? What happened?
So we had a similar question yesterday, and
But now it's an overview.
Yeah, it's an overview. I still would go in the same direction, saying that for me it's more like the feeling that you get, the energy that you get, and that you go around. Like yesterday evening, we went to the city center. You see IWA members everywhere. Then you come back. You go in that elevator. You see someone there. You discuss something. Only in this few minutes up the elevator, or seconds up the elevator, you discuss something, or you get into talking, and that's it feels like a big family, even though you do not know all.
Yeah, you see a badge and you're like, oh, we have something in common, and then
even this morning for breakfast, you sit down to someone that you haven't met before, you discuss something. It's a super interesting talk, and that's what I really like, that you just go around and everyone is heading into the same direction.
How connected are you with young water professionals?
So not so much yet, but it's improving via the conference, of course. And also we have young water professionals in Austria, but again, it's not so big in Austria. So that's something that we should definitely improve. And that's also what I really like here, you get the energy of the young water professionals. And of course, walking around, seeing it everywhere, everything is happy, there are so many things.
Were you able to connect with young water professionals from Austria?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, and we met before, and then we had dinner yesterday as well, because yesterday we had an Austrian-Germany dinner, which is nice as well, I think. Even though it's international and everything, it's also, they talked yesterday about this tradition that on every conference there is one German-speaking evening, which is also a nice adaptation, I think, just to also getting more involved with those people.
And bringing the voices together after, right? You received so much information, developed so much the network. So what is possible now to do at a national level?
Yeah, exactly. So, and I guess in these conferences you tend to, if there's someone from my country that I already know, you probably tend to speak more to those people you haven't met before, or that you do not know anything about yet, and so on, because the others you see more often. So it's really nice to have this one evening also together.
Very well. So can we have the mic passed? Yes. Perfect. I'll save you for last. Oh no, you want to talk? Tell me.
No, it's just there's a description of Austrians.
Oh, this is joke number 3. Then it's only 3 to go.
They're described as Germans with a personality.
Okay, that one I like. We won't tell it to anyone else.
I kind of feel they have a
but
I think this is an icebreaker for next time when I talk to you.
Michael, sorry, what was the highlight? Were you here the entire...
Absolutely, yeah. I think the plenaries were a highlight for me. And there was one that was yours, but another that stood out was the Indigenous session, and that really was a long overdue conversation. Unfortunately, we're just starting it, and Dawn Martin-Hill, a Mohawk Indigenous North American. So I invited Dawn to speak at Wastewater in Australia.
Wow.
about 6 months ago, we had a conversation. We brought New Zealand Indigenous and Indigenous Australians along, and some young Indigenous water professionals, the emerging Indigenous water leaders, and we started a conversation. And Tom, as part of that, moderator, said we have to escalate. We've got to take that one step, and brought Dawn to here to Copenhagen, and
things happen.
And all of a sudden,
Just started.
And then the next step is to take it to Toronto and go another order of
Oh, I'm
magnitude,
sure-
and
I'm
that was
sure that-
fantastic. We had Brad, and in fact, a plug for Brad
Right,
Mogridge.
I wanted to
This
understand the
is,
back.
So one of our Indigenous speakers, Brad Mogridge, and I'll send this podcast to Brad, but Brad gave us this beautiful artwork, so something to think about.
It's
But
really beautiful.
he's a very talented man, and a very passionate Indigenous man. So my highlight, in fact, it brought Brad to tears, and I have to be careful, there might get something in my eye, but he spoke from the heart, and he spoke of his family and the importance of bringing this conversation and elevating and bringing an Indigenous voice to decision making, because it hasn't been present, and we need to do much better. And walking, and Dawn had that same conversation as we build a better future, build it alongside Indigenous and non-Indigenous people. And to me, that was an absolute highlight, and one that we will continue.
Yes. Glen?
So I'll say maybe three things, but the first is
Is the three jokes that are missing?
No, we're going to save those. They're special. We're going to save them.
Very well.
So emotion. Water is emotion. People relate to water. So we do ourselves a great disservice when we talk about water only in the facts and figures. So part of engaging the public more in water is bringing the emotional side. So it's inside of the profession, right? But somehow we don't. But just picking up on that. So I'll give, in terms of the conference, a little bit. I'm looking at this. I'm just coming on to the Strategic Council, and it's when you're a past president, you're not dead yet. So I'm kind of looking at the conference again in terms of the big tent.
Yes.
What's missing in this Congress is the developing world. Now we have the Development Congress, which was formed because we needed to do something much bigger than would have fit into this Congress, at least at that time. So I think we need to think more about how we
integrate.
How we
How
make.
do you see it? I mean, we did have some more, I think it was, we revised the program to introduce a little bit more WASH. That we did. But of course, I agree that we need to do more. How do you see it? How do you see it happen? I mean, is this like we have like the digital team that is kind of goes across the entire session, and then we add another team that just goes across the session, and we make sure that people have a roadmap to that so that they can navigate? Because we created a Young Water Professionals roadmap, which kind of laid out all the activities related to that with young water professionals. So maybe if we look at solutions for Global South, for example, then we can have a roadmap for them to kind of follow. With that, maybe that's a way we can think about it.
We got to think about that, and it could well be that this Congress doesn't. So it's.
It doesn't.
The big tent could be the Congress. The big tent could be other things that we do. Yeah. So I mean, one of the challenges with so many people in developing countries is the inability to travel. So, I mean, we the association really needs to continue the digital part of what we're doing, and it was. I was really pleased to see how far that has progressed. I hadn't seen that from the inside. So, the operation in India and so forth that's a very good step forward. So.
And it's happening at our level also. So what happened was that we had a workshop called the Workforce of Tomorrow. This actually started back in 2018 with Tor. Hi, Tor. He was the previous Young Water Professional chair. He is watching. And then we did a session together with South Africa, yes, in this year. And the workshop with South Africa is how to build the workforce of tomorrow, and this is based on the mega trends and what skills will be needed for the future. And that same workshop is now going to be repeated in South Africa at the Congress to see, try to look, how do we look it from here? It's the same workshop. How do we look at from this side? And so we are traveling, the young water professionals from Denmark that ran the program here now are traveling over there to run the program there and see what learnings we bring. So I think that this transition is happening. And I think there's many ways to do it, many layers, some more strategic, and maybe there's some that even us with young water professionals can start to initiate, so chapters that we can start to link to make sure that they start to run activities, because maybe we can do that, right?
It's interesting. It could well be that the young water professionals could well be the key to do this. So we have more YWP programs than we have governing members.
Yes.
So you know, the YWPs are growing the association in that sense. So that's, you know, so that's the analytical part. So my favorite part was your keynote.
No.
No question. No question. So,
Glen.
yep.
I deeply appreciate it. It meant a lot. It was a construction of stories that were real. And I think and I wrote it during the Congress, and I think that was key, because I didn't have the 3 months to prepare, so I had to write it here, and the energy was all around me. So
What a gift you gave to the audience, that lived experience.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Well, I will end the podcast now. We are actually past time. I will invite you to say goodbye to the camera just for us to end. See you.
Thank you.
And I so much appreciate this. Thank you so much.